to the live lounge, beautiful souls. It is so good to see you. It's great to be here with you, and we've got a great show. So today we're going to be talking about the healing power of nature and natural remedies. And Christina Althaea, she's been on a little retreat. She's going to be joining us a little bit later via a VT. So bless her heart, she took some time out of her relaxation, a little mini sabbatical, to still be with us to offer you something later. And she's going to be talking about superfoods and how they can really help our health and well-being. But Paul is going to begin, and he's talking about a subject very close to his heart, something that we've both had a lot of knowledge and experience with, and he's going to be talking to you about the Bach flower remedies, or however you say it.
Yeah, some people call it Bach, but I personally call it Bach flower remedies, and it was came into being through an eminent doctor, Dr. Edward Bach, and he developed this Bach flower remedy system in the 1930s. Now he started off life. Originally he started off life in Birmingham in a factory which his father owned, but he was very sensitive and always had a strong connection to nature, and it just didn't resonate with him, and so he trained to become a doctor, and he became a very successful doctor. He had a very successful practice in Harley Street.
Oh, that's somewhere that only the sort of eminent top of the list doctors work in England.
And he then moved on to do some work at the London Homeopathic Hospital obviously in London, before he really just felt he wanted to he needed to move away from orthodox medicine, and whilst he loved the concept of homeopathy, he wanted to do something much more strongly with elements of nature, and in particular flowers. And what he did was he would go into nature. He actually moved to a property in Oxfordshire, where he had a large garden. He was surrounded by a lot of countryside, and he would he categorized all of the different flower remedies into 7 elements to it. One was related to you had fear, uncertainty, you had lack of interest in the present, you had loneliness, you had oversensitivity, what was the other one? Despondency, and over caring for others' well-being.
Well, I think that's something, even in these sort of times that we're in at the minute with this global pandemic, I think there's not many of you that won't relate to at least, I'd say, one or two of those things that Paul just mentioned.
And what his belief was that rather than dealing with the disease as they had to do with orthodox medicine, they were treating the disease. He thought you needed to treat the personality, the actual individual, treat their mind, change the way they were thinking, because if you can change the way they're thinking to something more positive, it actually then creates a greater energy, a more balanced energy within the body to allow the body to actually heal itself.
That's something we've sort of always really advocated. I don't think you can heal anything if your mind's not right, if your thoughts are not right. So you can understand why they're so successful.
And so he would go out into nature, and he was very intuitive, and I said to you earlier, he had a real close bond and connection to nature, and he would select different flowers, and he would work on them. He would turn them into something that he could digest, and he had a certain process of doing that. The first process was he'd put them in water and then place them in the sun for a period of time, so the water could absorb all of the energy and nutrients and the healing powers of that flower essence. He then moved on to, I think it was the last 18 remedies, because there's 38 remedies, flower remedies in total. And the last 18 he did by the boiled method, where he would put them in water and boil them up. And that gave him the tincture then to actually then use into their preparation. But also during this time, he suffered with some illness, but he actually turned that to greater benefit. So when he felt something, whether it was fear, anxiety, that loneliness, he would then go into nature and he would use his intuition, and he would almost like be guided to the different flowers, and he would keep trying different flowers to see what he could extract from them,
But when you
and to
told
how
me
that would then heal him.
earlier, it sounds almost, doesn't it, like a shaman, that they're led to certain medicinal plants for healing purposes. So I think he was very great in his day, in his age.
It was definitely, and very, very strongly connected to the spiritual element of us as individuals as well, more than just the physical. And it really was, his whole essence was changing and helping the way people are thinking and the emotions that they're having, because that is what's causing the disease or the dis-ease within each individual. And then as time went on, he developed more and more of these remedies. But he actually had a very successful practice. And at first he wasn't charging for it, because he said this was a system that's to be used free for people. It needs to be simple to use and to understand. But the people, his patients that were coming to see him, they didn't feel comfortable, so he did start to charge a small fee. And then this developed, and it's a worldwide product now, and it's still manufactured in the same way by the same company in the UK, and it's such a
simple
safe,
to use,
and
isn't
it's
it?
very safe as well. It doesn't interfere with anything else that you're doing, whether it's you're on any sort of normal medication, if you're having any other complementary therapies or treatments. It actually enhances everything else.
So how do we use them, Paul?
Well,
and what do you suggest?
Yeah, okay, so the first thing is, and you can Google, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put some links in the description below. Or I'll put some notes onto our website as well, show notes there. Well, what you need to do is you can Google up and connect to those. You assess how you're feeling, what you're thinking, the way you're thinking, what your emotions are. Are you fearful? Are you anxious? Are you upset? Are you hesitant? And that will guide you as to what remedy that you need to take. And you can either take use 2 drops direct from the bottle.
I'll show them.
Yeah. So this is, you buy them in these bottles. This is actually Rescue Remedy, which is a combination of 5 of the other flower remedies. They normally come in a little box like this. And you can put 2 drops, it's a little dropper bottle, so you put 2 drops directly onto your tongue, and you can do that. You could do that initially, throughout the day. But you can also make up your own little 30ml bottle by putting, we always use filter or mineral water or spring water into a bottle, and then put 2 drops of your remedy within that. And to actually help preserve it, you can then use a teaspoon of brandy in there.
A lot of people think, well, that would be my remedy,
Yeah.
just the brandy on its own, but don't use more than 5 ml.
Yeah.
As a preservative.
And it just prolongs that you can use the bottle there for. But you can also use, and I didn't know this previously, you can also use cider vinegar.
Apple cider
Yeah.
vinegar.
So 2 drops in 30 ml of water with your preservative in there, and each time you're going to use it, give it a shake, and then put 4 drops of that onto your tongue, and I would do that 4 times a day. But you can also put a couple of drops of what you're using into a glass of water, and then sip that throughout the whole day. So whichever's going to work easiest for you. And the great thing that I found with this is that whereas with like homeopathy, which is another a great complementary
something we've
medicine, many years. Whereas with homeopathy, you can't have anything like 15-30 minutes before or after you've taken the remedy. With the Bach flower remedies, you can take them at any time. There's no restrictions. And it's great, and they really enhance everything else that takes place.
And the other good thing that we were going to mention was it doesn't matter what age you are, you can give it to small children, you can give it to the elderly, the infirm, but also, as you knew we were going to mention, it's also very safe and very effective to use with animals. Now, one of our cats was particularly frightened of the very extremely loud thunder we get here. So when we have a storm in Florida, we sure get a storm. And it's great, we like the thunder, but one of our cats was really frightened and he, shiver and shake. So we said, let's try him on the rescue remedy. So that's why we had the rescue remedy here. And honestly, with him using that, he's not bothered anymore. I was quite surprised it was so effective so quickly. And he before he'd cower and he'd go around the other side or underneath the bed. Now he's sort of looking to almost to go out.
Well,
so they are very effective.
I mean, just the other night he was outside and it was thundering and he just stayed out there.
There's no way he'd have done that.
No,
before. Really
so
good.
they are very effective. And we've used them in our healing practice in the UK for many years with our clients there, and they've gained great benefit from it as well. I will put some popular ones, maybe a few little headline things of ones that are quite probably useful to use at this time in particular. We don't like to talk too much about the pandemic, but it is out there. And if you're fearful at all of known things, then you can use Mimulus. Or if you're very anxious for other people, which I think a lot of people currently are with their family members and everything, then red chestnut is good for that. And if you're if you're filled with a bit of uncertainty, gentian, if you're very impatient with anything, and I think also if you looking to find that tranquility within your life, then white chestnut is really good for that. But there's loads of others. Say there's 38 remedies. You can find the chart, see which suits you, how you are in that time, and then make your choice. And it'll be you'll really enjoy it.
Great. So and I like you say, there's no side effects. They're great. Just be careful if you do have any aversion to brandy or alcohol, then you can use the apple cider vinegar. So thank you, Paul. Really informative. So I'm going to talk about something that I had a lot of experience with some years ago, and we say this, a lot of the things that we use and that we advocate are because we've used them ourselves, because we've come across them for our own healing. So I'm going to talk about something that I should suppose you've all heard of, castor oil. And most people say, my grandmother or my mum used to give me that when I was a child, and but this is used in what they call a pack or a compress. Now, several years ago, I woke in the night with the most excruciating pain. I think it was one of the worst pains I'd ever had. And
well, it's the worst I've seen you.
I was that bad, he couldn't get me downstairs and into the car to get me into hospital. Actually, I wasn't going to tell you this, but it was, I just reminded you. He was on the phone to the emergency services and they said to him, what colour has she got in her face? Is she white or red? He said, I don't know, because she's on all fours with her head buried in. That was my way of dealing with the pain. But anyway, I can laugh now, but it wasn't funny as you can imagine at the time. So I'm going to cut a long story short. So they get me to the emergency hospital, and after some well, actually, they admitted me before they found out what it was. I had scans and things, which again wasn't very comfortable. But they found out I'd got 3 fibroids in the pelvic area, and the one that was causing the most pain was, they said, was the size of a grapefruit, and it was pressing on my ovaries. So obviously I was going through a certain time in my life where women's hormones change, so it was all to do with that. So they gave me 2 options. The first option, you're going to laugh, was you can have a full hysterectomy. I thought, well, you've got no chance whatsoever. And the second option was coming into clinic once or twice a week to have powerful hormonal injections. I thought, well, no, that's not floating my boat either. So I said, let me go home and think about it. So I said to Paul, get me out of here.
I think that's what you said, wasn't it,
yeah.
Paul? Just
get me out of here. So I need to get home and do some research. Paul knows what I'm like. So yeah, I go home and I do some research, and I came across these castor oil packs or castor oil compresses, and they were widely used, greatly used. In fact, it was one of Edgar Casey, who was the Sleeping Prophet's main remedies that he prescribed for so many people with such great results. So I thought, well, look, I've got nothing to lose. So I used these castor oil packs because I had to go back to hospital in 6 weeks to see the consultant, let them know what I was going to do. And sure, I weren't going to have one of their options. But anyway, so I use these castor oil packs, and you warm the castor oil. You can either put, it has to be on a cotton flannel or a cotton cloth, about the size of a face cloth, which was quite convenient. And you pour the castor oil in the middle and then fold it over so it's dispersed evenly around the flannel. And then you place it over the abdomen. I'll tell you a bit more about the details in a moment, but I did this, and you lay for 30 minutes to an hour. I used to do the hour because it's so relaxing.
Very relaxing.
Yeah. And I did that 4 or 5 times a week for the entire 6 weeks. And when I went back to the hospital, they took me in for the scan, and to be honest, he was dumbstruck because not only had they shrunk, they'd completely disappeared. There was no sign of any fibroid anywhere, and he was kind of scratching his head. He couldn't quite make out. And I said, well, he said, and you've not taken anything? I said, no, I haven't been on. I said, I have been using these castor oil compresses. Well, you know what medical doctors like. They wouldn't give it the success that it had. But he just said, well, they're gone. That's the main thing. I said, yes. So to use, and I would highly recommend them. I mean, I have used them periodically every so often because they're good for any liver overload. So if anybody's had problems with or had to have long-term prescribed drugs, or even alcohol problems, or just general wanting to detox, they really do clear the liver. They help to improve circulation and assimilation. So when toxins are removed, things can absorb better. The nutrients then that are carried around by the circulation are better absorbed into the body's organs and connective tissues and things. They're also very good for inflammation. So arthritis, bursitis, things like that, they are really good for joint pain, muscle strains. I've had clients that I recommended them to that come in, they'd been getting a lot of arthritic pain in the knees, and they'd use a smaller piece of cloth. You can warm, as I say, the cloth. You can warm it in the oven, but do not put it in a microwave oven. You can just have it a few minutes in a hot oven, and just be careful. So just so it's warm, because then that sinks into the tissues, and then you'd put plastic wrap or cling film over that. And if you're laying down or wherever you're sitting, put a plastic bag or plastic sheeting underneath, because it will stain bedding, clothing, upholstery. So we had a really good
we had a system set up,
going. Yeah. So, and then after the plastic wrap, you'd put your, if it's the larger area, if it is over the abdomen, then you can put your hot water bottle on, and then a towel to just keep that heat in and relax. But as I say, if it was a strained wrist or a knee, you'd have a smaller cloth, and you can put the plastic wrap or cling film all round that, and then your cloth you will have warmed with the castor oil on. Again, we will put links down below in YouTube so you can look them up, and we'll put them on the show notes as well. So anything to do, any inflammation, digestive disorders, liver complaints, headaches, back pain, as I say, any sort of inflammation, it really does help. And I also say it helps with anything that needs to get out of your system. So, fibroids, plaque, people have build up around, certain veins and capillaries. They're really good to use. Any toxins you need to get out. That have been used for centuries, actually. And the castor oil, they say it comes from a plant that its name means the plant of Christ. So it is very relaxing, and as I say, it really assists in that healing on many levels. So
yeah, well it is, and I've used it as well, and it's great. It's as I say, it is very relaxing, and very effective as well. But do be careful with the stain inside of it. Get the plastic sheeting down, and get yourself set up afterwards as well.
So I tended to do it at a time you can relax afterwards as well, because as I say, it is very relaxing, but good for painful joints, sprains, as well as hormonal imbalances, liver overload. So great. Oh, and you can reuse the cloth that you have the castor oil on. I would keep it in a container with a lid so it doesn't get on anything, but you can reuse that for up to a year because it doesn't go off. So as I say, you can look up Edgar Casey, you can look up castor oil packs, and I highly recommend them. So,
but also when you've finished your session with it, just have some paper towels when you move the cloth, the cloth off you, just to wipe the excess. Because and just be careful, because you can get it everywhere if you're not set up right.
Yeah, the only time they say not to use it is if you're pregnant or if you're menstruating. So, but give them a try. Look them up. They're such a great natural remedy. So. Now we're going to go over to the lovely Christine, who's going to talk to us all about superfoods. So sit back and enjoy, and I'm sure that you'll gain something from listening to the lovely Christine. Is she there?
Greetings, beautiful ones, lovely ones, divine ones, dear ones. It's so great to be here. Thank you, beautiful Caroline and wonderful Paul, and it's really great to be here on the Live Lounge, as always. And I'm really excited about our topic this evening, which is the healing power of nature, of course, and natural remedies, because as a master herbalist, of course, I'm going to talk to you about plants. But instead of talking about certain herbs that are for certain conditions, because how are we going to choose which thing to talk about, right? I thought it would be a better idea to just talk about a more generalized idea of plants and how that they can help, and that is with regard to superfoods. So I want to just take a few minutes. I want to talk about the superfoods that I like to use, because the great thing about superfoods is they can help you when you're not well. They can help you when you're run down and tired, but they're also great for you when you're feeling great. They're just good all the time. So there's not a time where you wouldn't take a superfood. So this is something that you can take every day. So this is something that can help you in your regular life, no matter what's going on. So I want to talk to you about some of my favorites, because these are the ones that have the most generalized, broad spectrum, wonderful properties of having a full balance of all kinds of vitamins and minerals. And especially when I mix them all together, I know that they have a great balance together. So let's start with my first one, which is spirulina. Now we know this is a plant that grows in the water and fish eat it. And it's really good for fish. And that's because there's a lot of vitamins and minerals in it. So spirulina is really, really good for us, but I won't deny it's got a little bit of a fishy flavor to it. So if it's something that you want to put into your mix, or if it's something you want to take in your daily life, just know that I've found the secret to taking spirulina. And that is anything citrusy helps cut the taste of that fishiness. I wonder if that's why we put lemon on our fish when we eat it. So anyway, a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of honey, when you mix it with spirulina, really improves the flavor. So that's a little tip for you. So another superfood that I really like is moringa. Moringa is a tree. It actually grows in the subtropics, so it can grow here in Florida, and I have my own moringa tree. You can eat all parts of the tree, the pods that grow the seeds from the stems. You can eat the leaves, and you can also eat the root. But the thing that I like the most is just to eat the leaves because it has the full spectrum of those vitamins and minerals. Moringa is particularly high in potassium. One serving of moringa powder has 3 times the potassium of a banana. It's also super high in vitamin C and also has a ton of calcium. So those are things that usually a lot of us are short on, so I make sure that moringa is a part of my daily habits. Another really good herb that has a lot of vitamins and minerals, and you might not even think about this one because it doesn't have a very good reputation, and that is stinging nettle, because everyone knows it is that plant that stings. But here's what you need to know about nettle. It's extremely nutritious. The Native Americans used to use nettle for healing as well as for nutrition. And when you dry nettle or if you cook nettle, the stinging goes away. There's no sting. So if you buy nettle powder, you can use that. And if you happen to want to harvest it yourself, it's another herb that grows here in Florida, then you can just harvest it with gloves, of course, and then hang it to dry. And then once it's dried, the sting will be gone. So nettle is another one of my favorites for a lot of vitamins. Another one that I like is rose hips. Rose hips is really high in vitamin C, and it's really tasty. It's got a really tart flavor, so like cranberries. So if you have rose hip tea, you can add a little bit of honey, and you have a wonderful little sweet tart beverage that's really high in vitamin C. But I also like to put rose hip powders in my smoothies. But another one I like to use is orange peel powder. Probably doesn't sound very yummy, but I will tell you, excuse me, that even though orange peel is very bitter, if you take a teaspoon of orange peel and put it in a glass with about 4 to 6 ounces of water and a little bit of honey and a little bit of lemon juice, it's very delicious. It's like a morning citrus tonic, and you don't taste the bitterness. I don't know if it's the lemon juice or if it's the honey, but I've tried this. And it's really good. It's almost better than orange juice because orange juice is just too sweet. And who needs all those carbs anyway? So try your orange, I call it my orange powder tonic. Another really good superfood is alfalfa. No, it's not just for goats and horses and cows. It's really good for people too. You don't eat the hay, of course, but you can buy alfalfa leaf powder. You can also eat alfalfa sprouts, and those are the sprouts that you can find at the store. Not the big sprouts, because the big sprouts are usually the mung bean sprouts. But if you find the little skinny sprouts, those are the alfalfa sprouts, and those are really, really good for you. So eat them all the time. Throw them in smoothies, and eat them on salads. And then one of my final favorite ones is beetroot powder. Beetroot, as we know, is a really dark-colored vegetable, beets. And we know that the dark-colored vegetables are usually ones that are the most nutritious. The vitamins maybe give them the color. So beetroots are that really dark red. So beetroot powder is also, it's in addition to being nutritious, it's got a little bit of a sweet flavor. So when I mix it in with those other powders, it helps balance out the flavors and gives a little bit of sweetness to it. So it's a little bit more yummy to drink, either with water or with a juice, which I do sometimes. So anyway, that's all I wanted to share tonight. You can try those powders individually, or you can mix them up together. You can also just find superfood powders online. Just make sure that if you're going to buy a superfood powder online, read the ingredients and make sure there aren't a lot of fillers and make sure there aren't added vitamins. A lot of them like to say that they're high in a certain vitamin for some reason to promote that vitamin, but then they just add the vitamin, which defeats the purpose of not just eating a vitamin in the first place. So look for a superfood powder that only has the superfoods in it and doesn't have all these additives. I have noticed that some of them add things like probiotics, and those are fine. But I would avoid the superfood powders that have added vitamins like calcium and vitamin B and all that stuff, because the whole purpose of the superfoods in the first place is it's a higher assimilation. So you shouldn't have to take the vitamins anyway. So anyway, thanks so much again, you guys. And back to you, Caroline and Paul. Love you.
Oh.
Well, thank you, Christine. That was great. So welcome back to us. And Caroline is now going to a second subject, which is another really, really interesting one and so easy to access, is sun gazing.
Yes.
So over to you, Caroline.
I liked that little tip with Christine about using citrus things to help with the strong flavours, and the alfalfa is not just for goats and horses. So I like that. Oh, good. So, yeah, I'm going to be quick. So sun gazing, you may well ask, what is that all about? Well, as we know, the sun is the greatest source of energy on Earth, and in fact in the cosmos. The ancient Egyptians, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Native Americans all really revered the sun, and they knew how to harness its energy. And they all made references of sun gazing, or of looking at the sun. And you probably know that many cultures still today worship the sun because it bestows us with light and life, which without the earth or humanity would not exist on Earth. The earth would just
that's it,
freeze.
It's rather important.
Yes. So what is sun gazing, you may well ask? Well, I'm going to laugh because there's a couple of friends that I know are watching that when I mentioned it to them said that's dangerous looking at the sun. But you don't gaze at the sun in the day when it's high in the sky or when it is at its fullest. The safe time to do your sun gazing practice is 30 minutes after sunrise and the last 30 minutes before sunset. Now, it's been scientifically proven that the UV rays at those times are completely safe. And you'll know also because you are able to actually look at it without having to squint your eyes. So when you gaze, you have a soft gaze at the sun. And it is really quite meditative as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. You know, when you're sitting there, it just really calms you down and just fills you with all of its energy and the colours and things. Yeah.
So we first got into sun gazing several years ago. We were actually on a holiday in Ibiza, and it was really nice, wasn't it?
Yeah. We went out onto the hotel balcony. And the sun was just going down, and we kind of just said, "Well, come on, let's do some
try it.
sun
We
gazing."
could do it." So the main reason I'm going to tell you why I began sun gazing practice was because of the effect it has on the pineal gland. Now, you may or may not have heard of the pineal gland, but it is known as the seat of the soul. And when our pineal gland is active, it helps our psychic powers, it helps our intuition, it helps our connection with that higher consciousness and in fact with higher beings. And by sun gazing, it can really help decalcify, because I reckon a huge percentage of humans, the pineal gland is calcified. But by sun gazing, which is why I started it, it can really help enhance the function of the pineal gland. And we have had really good results. It's also good for improving your eyesight. It's really good at balancing the hormones. On a mental level, it helps you feel much more positive. It helps with focus and concentration. It can help with headaches, insomnia, and it can also help with weight loss because it decreases the appetite. But the main thing is it increases as well your serotonin and melatonin, that are neurotransmitters that modulate our sense of well-being, our sleep patterns and feelings of happiness. So again, you know, don't just take my word for it. Look it up on YouTube, look it up on Google, and I'm sure you'll see that the benefits are far-reaching. So how do you sun gaze? Well, as I said, only 30 minutes after sunrise or 30 minutes before sunset. We do sunset because I'm not an early morning person.
Exactly, yeah.
But and you'll start off with about 30 seconds to a minute the first time you do it. So just a soft gaze, look at the sun, and you may like to close your eyes and then try once more, just for a very short amount of time, no more than a minute when you begin. And then every day, just increase that by 30 seconds, or if it feels okay, a minute each time. Now, the longest I've done it for is about 20 minutes, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
And I get really good benefits from that. So, as I say, that UV radiation index is almost at 0 at that time, just after sunrise and just before sunset. It can also, as I said, be very meditative. I always just intuitively feel when I'm sun gazing, I feel filled with gratitude. I want to give thanks, all that Mother Earth gives us so freely, and Mother Nature, and I just feel it's lovely to be able to feel that gratitude, give thanks back, and also you feel more vital, you have more energy. And it really does expand the mind. So see how you get on, and remember, it's free as well. It doesn't cost anything.
But I think as well, it's actually you're spending time being still, and that in itself just calms everything down, and then the benefits of the sun gazing itself.
Yeah, and as I say, Paul and I have. And when I've done it with a couple of friends since I've been in Florida, we've seen the most amazing colours, and you see different colours with your inner eye, with your third eye, than you do your physical eyes. But you will see amazing colours, and they can change so quickly. I've closed my eyes for a little break for a few seconds after seeing pinks and purples, and I opened my eyes to just be blessed with the most stunning gold. It really is amazing. So do give it a try. There are advanced sun gazers that just live on the energy of the sun and water, but that's not, I don't think I'll be aiming for that.
No.
And I have had medical observations that have verified many things, but that is my little offering. Try the sun gazing. It will improve your health, but gently, sensibly, at that 30 minutes at sunrise, 30 minutes before sunset, and you'll be completely safe.
And I think, as you say, it is free to do. In the same way, just getting out in nature, being in amongst the trees, plant life, the forestry. We used to love doing that, didn't we?
And I think a lot's coming back since we've had lockdown as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember one time, several times, but there's this one particular time when we had our Native American drums. We went into the forest.
Quickly show you, it can make its debut.
Yay. And we actually went into the forest and we did some drumming. With a couple of friends of ours. We formed a circle, did some drumming, and then we meditated in the forest, and it was absolutely magical.
Powerful,
And you were just filled with all of its, like, nature's energy, and that energy is always there. So get out there, connect to it.
Good.
Get back in touch with it.
So just really feel your connection to nature, give thanks, and just really give us some feedback on how you get on. So thank you. It's been a pleasure spending time with you again. We always thoroughly enjoy it. We love your energy. We feel your energy. We feel that soulful connection, and we love it, don't we? So the next show, we're going to have 2 more shows, and then we are going to take a summer break. So we're back on the next show, May the 19th, and we look forward to seeing you. And then there'll be the June show, and then we're taking a summer break. But we just really appreciate you being with us, and we hope you gain a lot and go off and try some of those things.
Yeah, definitely. Just connect it, be yourselves, and follow what your intuition is telling you to do. Yeah. And just, most of all, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, from the Soul Crew, have a great month. Enjoy this beautiful weather. Enjoy coming out of lockdown. Be sensible. We love you with all our hearts. So, from the Soul Crew, sending lots of love.
And bye for now.
Mwah.
Take care, everybody.
Love you.